All right, live on YouTube. Let's go live on LinkedIn. One, two, three. Yeah. Should I put on some music till I set everything up? Just so people who join in later watch the repeat. They don't get bored when the setting up of the operation happens. Great. Live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn. Let's set everything up on WhatsApp as well. The two messages that I need to send. (181st episode). 181st episode of Thinker's Frequency. And we're ready. So if you can hear me, just quickly give me a cheer and then we will begin the show that we deserve. I hope you can see me clearly and hear me clearly. Yeah. Let me set myself up. Correcto. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good on LinkedIn. I'm good on YouTube. I hope the light is okay. Perfect. Let's begin. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go. Oh, but before we go, gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's do it again. Sublime. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together, which is such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Mr. Sumanth Kumar says, Happy Sunday, guys. Happy Sunday, Mr. Sumanth Kumar. Happy Sunday indeed. Happy Sunday is a very necessary, right? You don't want an unhappy Sunday. You don't want an unhappy Monday either. But somehow you get used to it. Right? Good morning, everyone, says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Good morning, Mr. Sharma. So, let's begin. You know what's happening in the world of shorts, right? Dr. Michael Burry has said that he's gonna come out with a killer analysis on Sunday. Sunday, Dr. Burry's background is, of course, the big short, the great financial crisis of 2008. He pointed out the first one to do the shorting on CDO. In fact, he created that particular short instrument, right? Great book, great movie, great life. A lot of people began chastising Dr. Burry, calling him a one fluke guy. So they said, like Mr. Chamat Palahipitya and all of these people, that this guy just got lucky once, right? And in response to that, what Dr. Burry came out with was an archive of the GME fiasco. Do you know about the GME fiasco? GME, GameStop, is a company which essentially was an out and out gaming operator, retail operator, right? It wasn't doing anything. It was just a stale company out of interests for the street. The stock was very static, very low, despite its strong cash position and so on and so forth. And then what happened with GameStop was that its stock started climbing up, and there was huge hedge funds which were shorting the stock. Now, despite their big short on GameStop, right, the stock started climbing up and up and up and up, so up that those hedge funds had to wind up. So Melvin Capital was amongst the casualties of the GameStop gamma squeeze, which defied expectations. It was one of the most interesting Wall Street moments ever, right? Where a retail participation essentially squeezed a short, and proper hedge funds lost money, right? That was the GameStop fiasco. The stock went up and then went down. So Robinhood actually had to suspend trading so that the retail operators could be halted and the hedge fund guys could essentially liquidate their shorts and so on. So forth. It was a huge, extremely interesting incident where it was a David and Goliath play, right? There was a movie made on it called Dumb Money, which essentially talked about a ragtag alliance of people in general, mom and pop, students, and so on and so forth. They buying GameStop stock when it was being shorted by these hedge funds, and those hedge funds losing their shirts and pants, right? What people did not know about GameStop fiasco was that Dr. Michael Burry was one of the earliest, in not one of the earliest, the earliest proponent of GameStop stock. So he was the one who sort of played an activist role in the board of GameStop. So he was not a board member, but he was a very significant stakeholder, some 2 or 3%. And he wrote a bunch of analysis where he said that this is going to be very effective for your stock. You should do that. And then the board effectively implemented his advice, right? And when it did, its stock started climbing up after eventually coming back to where it was. Not coming back, but still. So he reminded everybody, you remember GameStop? I bet you don't know this. So he essentially, in response to people questioning his credentials, calling him one-time lucky, he came out with that. And then he said that I'm going to be coming out with more news around this. So people are suspecting that he has more information or more insights when it comes to GameStop. He is a very, very good writer, a gifted writer, I'd say. Something that we could all learn from, someone we could all learn from as a writer. And he has made one of his posts available talking about Apple being undervalued and him spotting it out. So my reflections on 1999, something of that sort, and a bit of 2000. That's the name of the article. Very nice. You should all read it. It's a good read, heavy but good. Most of his writings are not accessible. One thing where I actually lost some admiration for Dr. Burry was that he made his Substack chargeable. Now, a person in that position, so well off, so successful in every way, I didn't expect him to be in the content creation business. I expected him uh, to share his wisdom for free with everybody, right? Make it more available. Why would you gatekeep your wisdom for money, especially when money is no object for you at that stage? So that's where I felt a little shortchanged. It's about $389 a year, $34 a month. How much is $34? Uh, I guess it's $2,500. $2,500 a month. I have not subscribed, so unfortunately, I won't be able to tell you what those insights are when it comes to those paid plays. But yeah, the free article, that's great. That's great. That's awesome. So, Nvidia, since the top has been down 20%, Palantir as well is down. So his shots are not doing so bad, at least now. And most people are saying that the best is yet to come when it comes to his shots. So let's see. Big shot playing out 2.0 in 2025, how it plays out. And let's see what the uh, Sunday analysis is, the big bombshell that he claims to be dropping today. Today, our time, I mean, tonight for us. Basically, it'll be there by Monday. We live in the future, right? India lives in the future. We're about 12 hours ahead. So let's see how that plays out. Moving on, folks. That was Nvidia, Michael Burry, Palantir, Meta, obviously struggling. It's opted GPUs, Google TPUs, right? Nvidia, it's basically in the wait list now. And people say that the move has backfired on Meta because it's going to be behind. It won't be able to use the CUDA architecture and so on and so forth. Whatever its strategy is, Meta is behind. A lot of things happening when it comes to the world of AI, right? Not very optimistic. A lot of reports are coming out on ChatGPT opening up an ad model. Man, ChatGPT, OpenAI, looking at an ad model. So they're going to show ads. Are they going to be covert about it or open about it? How is that going to be looking out? Is it going to be used in the links, the source links? Are they going to promote the source links? Is that the business model? Everybody is very, very interested to know. And also at the same time, everybody is pretty disillusioned by OpenAI. There's an FT report which says OpenAI is a furnace, is a cash furnace, right? That's what's happening, folks. By the way, stepping outside the whole AI play, there's huge geopolitical tensions rising up between China and Japan. So, a Japanese vocalist, a Japanese musician, was performing in China, right? And in the middle of a performance, lights out, few people came on the stage and took her away. That's what China is doing in response to Japan's comments on Taiwan. So that is clearly not nice, right? And this shit is heating up in ways that nobody wants. Very, very weird, very weird, extremely weird. At the same time, US is actively looking at waging a war on Venezuela. ChatGPT doesn't seem to be clear on how they want to proceed. Earlier, they had provided Go version for free for Indian users, says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Well, ChatGPT, I told you, right? It's just something about Mr. Sam Altman. Very weird. It's hard to pin down, right? The whole aspect of OpenAI being an NGO and then moving away from that NGO to become a company, not giving their NGO donors any equity in the company play. It's just very, very weird. I do it because I love it in front of the Senate hearing, and then, converting it into equity, the whole play. It's just very weird. That guy is twisted. But anyway, folks, so we were talking about Japan and China and Venezuela. So US is looking at actively waging a war on Venezuela, right? Which is very, very weird in every way, if you ask me. US is also has also come out with a statement that it's banning travel from third world countries. Now, it's not said what those third world countries are, but it's banning travel. This is all in response to a shootout that happened with the National Guard forces, right? Very, very tumultuous situation when it comes to US, Venezuela, China, Japan, Russia, and Ukraine are continuing to do what they were doing. And so is Israel and Hamas. No change in this situation. Absolutely no change. Apart from the fact that Pakistan and Afghanistan's war situation has climbed up, right? So it's heated up. Afghanistan has released a map which shows Pakistan as a disintegrated country and so on and so forth. So that fight is still on. And in the midst of all of this fight, let me check the gold price. It's up. Oh my God. Oh my God. What did I tell you, folks? 7% in a month. 6 months in 27%. A year, 60%. Just the last day, 1.25%. So gold, as I told you, is a proxy of geopolitical instability, right? Financial fiat system instability and so on and so forth. Whenever any of these things happen, gold rises, and that's exactly what's happening. So that's how you hedge yourself, right? Speaking of hedging yourself, folks, air travel seems to be a little tricky right now. A320s, that is the Airbus star plane, A320, all the Indigo narrow body planes, those are A320s. They are getting updated. So they made an update which essentially has been found to be vulnerable when it comes to managing sun's radiation. It leads to flight control risks, right, when it comes to the aircraft. So A320s are essentially looking at urgent updations on an Airbus alert. So India has a lot of them, of course, 300 plus. 6,000 jets impacted, but time-consuming hardware change needed only in 1,000. About 11,300 A320s in global service. In India, there are a lot of planes. Indigo's entire fleet essentially was A320s. Even though the time to fix this is a 30-minute operation, but labor and all these shortages would make it very expensive, or would make it very cumbersome for Airbus to essentially manage this particular change. So that's what's happening, folks. 300 plus domestic aircrafts to get affected. That's what's happening with A320s. Speaking of Indian airlines, right, the airline industry in general, Mr. Chandrasekharan has come out with a statement about Indian Airlines. He says that for every percentage point, the GDP percentage point that changes, right, there's a 2% change when it comes to the airline industry. So if Indian GDP is growing by 8%, airline industry will grow by 16%, right? And he says this is gonna play out for at least the next 30 years. So India's GDP, as it grows, double the growth rate will be the airline growth rate. Air India has been trying to turn around. The acquisition has been very, very sad. Ever since it has happened, Tata took back Air India from the government, and since then a lot of bad things have happened. Even the crash, which essentially took the industry down. So they are clearly struggling, but they have plans. They have hopes that they'll turn around. As I said, airlines are a good way to lose money very quickly, and a lot of money. If you want to be a millionaire, start as a billionaire and then start an airline. That essentially is an evergreen line. A lot of airlines have lost a lot of money. Indian Airlines are no different, right? And but the reason why in Air India is so important to Tata seems to be, they say, it's Mr. Chandrasekharan says it's not just a business opportunity, it's a responsibility. So they are essentially looking at a legacy play because the pioneer of Tata, Mr. JRD Tata's birthday is going to be happening sometime, right? So that's probably a legacy issue for Tata. It's not much of a business opportunity, it's more of a legacy opportunity. So let's see how they are able to turn it around. Very difficult times, of course, for the airline industry. SpiceJet struggling, Jet is done, Go Air is done, right? Akasa, it's okay. Indigo is also losing money, even though it has practically all the market for itself, right? So very, very complicated. Let's see how Indian Airlines maneuver these particular times. Move on, folks. Try is likely to cut backhaul spectrum fee to half, right? Backhaul spectrum fee is basically the fee which telcos have to pay for connecting to towers. Currently, it stands at about 0.15 to 0.3% of the AGR, right? 0.15 to 3.95% of the AGR. This rate varies depending on the number of backhaul carriers used, right? The radio frequency used by telecom firms to connect cell towers is given administratively by the government. So these people are looking at halving it. It's good news for the telcos, good news for the telcos. Older players, Airtel and Vodafone Idea, want flexibility to use existing backhaul carriers. Any change in backhaul carriers will involve additional capex, right? So that's what's happening. Good news in the whole play, right? Try calling to half the particular fee. Speaking of telco, folks, there's another development. This is a developing story. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know. When it came to, you remember the SIM binding thing that telcos were pushing for? That the OTTs need to have some sort of SIM binding because, the whole fraud and everything, telcos were getting over-regulated and OTTs were just flying off the shelf, right? And telcos' response was that you need some regulation on OTTs as well, because without that, we won't be able to do anything, right? Because a lot of fraud happens on OTTs, right? So guess what happened? SIM binding happened. OTT players get SIM binding notification from DOT. So for UPI, right, you won't be able to use a UPI app if the SIM is not in the phone, and so on and so forth. Even if WhatsApp is there, it's going to have an automatic log out in 6 hours on the laptop, and so on and so forth. So you'll have to keep logging in. And so it's a whole deal where implementation is supposed to happen within 90 days. So this is a developing story. I have always said that telcos are over-regulated and OTTs are under-regulated. And that basically creates an unfair advantage for OTTs in the world of communication, right? This is a step in the right direction. A lot of spam, a lot of fraud is not perpetrated at a telco level. It's actually perpetrated at OTT level. However, they just fly past. So app will be linked to mobile number on a particular device. Web versions need to log out every 6 hours, and so on and so forth. So I told you, this is very interesting. A step in the right direction. Let's move on, folks. Speaking of steps in the right direction, Lenskart has come out with a pro forma, earning, and they say that 59% earnings from India, and they're growing revenue Q2 year on year, quarterly revenue year on year by 21%, and they are being able to grow even the profits at I'll tell you 44% higher. The second quarter financial year 44% higher. So Lenskart is essentially looking at throwing good numbers. They say we have begun compounding, our margins are going to improve, and so on and so forth. So if the company is able to essentially increase its earnings by half, right? it'll still be overvalued by at least like 20%, but that's great, right? It's in the right direction. They are expanding their stores, their manufacturing facilities, and also localizing their production. So a lot of good news. First quarterly report, not bad at all, right? Not bad at all. Moving on, folks. Speaking of not bad at all, Indian growth rate, of course, 8%. We discussed that. A lot of good news around it, So a lot of good news when it comes to the whole uh, Indian economy outlook, right? Attracting a lot of investments, attracting a lot of jobs, the job reports, the inflation play, and so on and so forth. A lot of people get confused about nominal GDP and real GDP. Nominal GDP is essentially uh, GDP plus inflation, right? So real GDP is uh, nominal GDP accounted for inflation. So add inflation and you get nominal. Nominal GDP, of course, is very, the delta between real and nominal is low because inflation is very low, right? So that is what's happening. You're gonna look at a rate cut kind of a situation. Let's see how that pans out, right? Uh, while GDP grows, while transportation, while services, manufacturing, exports grow, India is also looking at reducing the logistics spend and making logistics more and more efficient for India Incorporate because, as I told you, logistics is the bedrock upon which the country runs, right? The growth of the country is directly dependent on the spend you make on logistics, inversely proportional. So the more money you are being able to or being forced to spend on logistics, the slower your economy, right? So what Indian Railways have come out with, that they're liberalizing the financial criteria for parcel service. So they are basically moving away with the revenue limits and the fee and so on and so forth, so that more and more companies can be eligible to avail railway parcels. Indian Railways has liberalized its parcel service, the 10 crore annual minimum net revenue criteria to submit tenders for leasing parcel cargo services, and 50 lakh for floor for aggregating parcels has been removed. So they basically want smaller people, smaller companies to also step in, which is a beautiful thing, which is great, right? Which is awesome. Railways, as we talked about a few episodes ago, is the cheapest mode of freight forwarding, right? About, I don't remember the numbers, but they were very interesting numbers. So about 12 rupees, 11.9 bucks was the road per ton per kilometer. uh, Railways was about 1 rupee, 2 rupees, something of that sort, and flight was about 66 rupees, right? So more small players entering the parcel play will further reduce this, make it more accessible, grow the market. So let's see how that plays out, folks. Moving on. Indians get into spirituality things at year end. So a lot of travel in India, essentially. Great movie indeed. Great movie indeed. Oh, great move indeed. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were discussing films. Said Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Great move indeed. Yes. So, speaking of moves, India's spiritual travel seems to be moving forward. So, if you've been following politics, you would know that India's this ruling party BJP was always very focused on spiritual travel. So if you watch 2013, 12, 14 interviews of Prime Minister Modi, uh, if you watch him talk about his vision for railways, for travel, for tourism, all he talks about, right? All he talks about is that tourism is a great unifier and so on and so forth. But the vision is around the religious pilgrimage, you know, related travel. So he says that this could be a very serious economic booster, because he's been saying that for like 12, 15 years. So I've been watching his interviews from 2010s, right? Back then, not a PM candidate. But whenever he used to talk about railways, he used to be saying that let's connect all the char dhams from through railways, and if we are being able to do that, it's going to mobilize a lot of economy. And you move 10 years ahead, what have they tried to do, right? Jewar Airport, very close to the religious aspects. Ayodhya, the whole tourism angle to it, the Rishikesh play, a lot of travel and tourism around those, even in south, even in the east. So that's their vision of basically mobilizing mass tourism, because it becomes a very mass activity, right? And that's paying off. So if you look at footfalls, folks, Prayagraj, 51 million in 2024, right? Now H1 of 2025 is 674 million, right? So that is Kumbh, of course. Then Ayodhya, 164 million to 234 million in just first half of 2025. So a lot of traction getting being found in the religious tourism play. Not surprising. Is anybody surprised? If people were not following the political play for the last 10 years and the visions that they had been outlining very, very clearly, they would be surprised. But other than that, not at all, right? So Varanasi, Rishikesh, Haridwar, Amritsar, top trending destinations on Clear Trip, and bookings on Varanasi and Puri are up 40% for December. So people are really clinging on to the idea of religious travel. No surprise there. I see no. It's just an opportunity that was pretty much not utilized to its fullest extent. Now it's getting heated up. Speaking of spirituality, folks, there's something new called bhajan clubbing. It's called bhajan clubbing. So these people have come out with a deep dive on says, who's head banging to Hare Murare? Bhajan clubbing is the taking Indian cities by storm. Gen Z, spirituality and techno beats come together for bhajan clubbing. This is hilarious. Of course, right? I didn't expect clubbing to get associated with bhajans, but it's a new play. It's a new brand play. It's basically satsang getting modernized and so on and so forth. They say that these people like the free nature, the whole spiritual aspect of it, and so on and so forth. It's a new way to connect with people and whatnot, right? They also say in the interview, the lady said spirituality is the truest definition of philosophy, which essentially is incorrect, right? Spirituality is not truest form of philosophy. Philosophy is analysis of what is. Spirituality is the journey of what you want to be, right? So spirituality is adhyatmikta. Philosophy is darshan shastra. So these are two different things which people don't really understand. So people equate philosophy as spirituality as philosophy. Spirituality is an oddity of philosophy. It's not the same thing, or it's not a form of it, right? So there they are wrong about their interpretation of the whole thing. But yeah, bhajans and clubbing. Interesting fact, I also wrote a bhajan. I have written something called Shiv Aradhana. Interesting story. I got a call from Sanskar TV to have my Shiv Aradhana playing on TV, on Sanskar TV, right? And that was awesome. So I thought my bhajan getting played. So one of 2 or 3 of my songs are getting played on MTV, right? Till the time MTV exists in the rock pop category. And if a bhajan starts playing in Sanskar, right, I'd be very happy, because then I could be in the world of Mr. Anup Jalota and Brett Scallons, right? best of both worlds, right? And then those people told me, they sent me a letter, the legal letter, where they said that they'd love to, uh, you know, give my song, the video, airtime, the bhajan, but they would need rights of my song. And not just rights, like all rights. The legal letter said that uh, all the intellectual property will be transferred for Sanskar Group to do as it pleases. And I'm like, what? Including reconstruction of the song. So, you take out my voice, put somebody else, and that's what happens to my song. And I didn't want that. That was bewildering. It was like very unsanskari, right? Coming from Sanskar TV. So I essentially said no to that shit deal. But it was a good moment. It could have been a good moment when if my song really came on Sanskar, right? The bhajan. But you could listen to it. Shiv Aradhana, Nishant Mittal. I wrote it because my mother said you should make this song, right? And I said sure, and I wrote that song. So it's not an old hymn repeated. It's the words are mine, the melody, the instrumentation. I played, my friend played harmonica on it. I got my school, uh, my music teacher in school to play tabla on it. I played guitar, bass, right, drums, all of that thing. So it's a very nice bhajan, Shiv Aradhana. A lot of people really like it. Some people even covered it, much to my pleasant surprise. But yeah, not on Sanskar TV, right? Moving on, folks. I was actually surprised how Sanskar could even write that letter. I mean, what kind of a piece of shit you need to be to write in your contract that we will take your song, we'll play it, we'd not pay you for it because we are giving you exposure, but we'll also take the fundamental rights of the song, including the reconstruction rights, and do as we please. Uh, do as the sweet will, as their sweet will, language like that. And as a as a person from a legal family, I was like, what the shit is this? Unbelievable, man. But they sent it without shame. Moving on. Drone strike on Chinese workers in Tajikistan. Sino-Pak ties. Very weird situation happening, folks. Anyway, CRISIL has raised India's growth forecast to 7% this year. CRISIL is another play. 7%. CEA was the first, Center of Economic Advisory. CRISIL has followed through 6.5 to 7%. GDP rise. No surprise for anybody. No surprise at all. Moving on. Economist stake sale draws interest at deadline nears. So just yesterday we were talking about the Rothschild group. Somebody in the chat was interested in the Rothschild group. Rothschild family still owns The Economist. The Economist is a very famed publication which essentially, uh, you know, uh, it used to be a very prominent publication, but now it has lost almost all its credence because of its political bias, right? Very transparent political bias, unfortunately. Closeted, but very, very clear, right? So they've lost a lot of credence. And the Rothschild family is basically looking at offloading its stake in the Economist. So they are moving away from Economist. The Rothschild family, the person died. His wife essentially, through the trust, owns a significant stake in the Economist, and she wants out. So some of the stake had already been paid to the Agnelli family. Agnelli, you would remember, is the same family which owns the tractor business, which Mahindra is looking at buying. Was it Mahindra or Tata? We've discussed this. Viewers, can you remind me, was it Tata that bought the Agnelli tractor play? Or was it Mahindra? Tata, right? Tata was the one who bought the tractor business of Agnelli. Yes, it was Tata. I think I remember it. So Agnelli family owns half of it, and then Rothschild are essentially looking at moving away. So that's what's happening with Rothschilds. The Rothschild family financed the Europe military's operation in Napoleonic Wars, bailed out Bank of England in 1825, and funded Britain's purchase of controlling stake in the Suez Canal in 1875, according to the Rothschild archive. A very prominent family. There's a very famous quote of Rothschild. He says, "I do not care which puppet rests on the throne of England. What matters is who controls the money, and that is me." Right? So, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's what it meant. Moving on, folks. There's a deep dive on insurance and how it's causing trouble. Health insurance is basically sold for peace of mind, but a lot of people are having arbitrary rejections to their claims because of insurers saying that hospitalization wasn't required. So they quoted a case of a dengue patient who got admitted, and then there was a lot of back and forth, humiliation, right, and interrogation, and months after his payments were cleared. But that's not why people buy insurance, right? So insurance is essentially a very conflicted industry. If you talk to anybody who's ever worked in insurance sales, you'll find out that they're always unhappy. You know why? Because insurance sales is very hard, and it's always antithetical to what the service actually demands, provides. So the sales guy's responsibility is to sell. So they sell, they quote every good thing. And when it comes to actual claim reimbursement, that team is fundamentally against. So the sales guys want your money, so they sell, giving you all sorts of assurances. But when it comes to the need of that money, the people responsible for dispersing it, their responsibility is to save money and to check for fraud and so on and so forth. And that essentially leads to a lot of harassment. And that's exactly what's being highlighted here. Very complicated situation. This is also an ongoing story because a lot of conflicts happened between hospitals and insurance companies, where hospitals said that we are not getting paid right, and so on and so forth. The whole conflict that this we don't agree to this fare, and there was this whole conflict between the insurance companies and the hospitals, and the government had to intervene and so on. So that is also there, but people are very unhappy because of all the paperwork. Are you? Have you had a bad experience with insurance? Would love to know. Moving on, folks. There is also a deep dive on smartphone addiction amongst seniors, old people. They say that old people are the most vulnerable. It's not just the kids who are vulnerable to smartphone addiction. Old people are more so vulnerable to smartphone addictions because, you know, of genuine vulnerabilities with the whole age group, right? There's time, there's newness to technology, there's unfamiliarity to the whole concept of attention hooks, the whole dopamine play, and so on and so forth. So, some stats that they've mentioned, they say that 41% elders own smartphones, 13% use social media, 12% of Indians are aged 60 and above. The number is going to be about 19% in 2050. So there's a serious threat of us losing the elderly to smartphone addiction. And this leads to a lot of problems, right? Forgetfulness, bad health, not just mental health, but also physical health. Smartphone addiction is one of the grave problems that we are all facing as a society. Now, if you've read Open Pitch for Seneca, if you're watching this, you probably know me through that Open Pitch for Seneca. I was building a distraction-free smartphone, right? It is a very, very valid problem for seniors. And they're talking about how seniors can essentially handle the situation, how they could be educated on the perils of smartphone addiction. But the insight there is that no amount of education will help smartphone addiction, because smartphone addiction happens on the subconscious level. So people addicted to smartphone know that they're addicted. It's not the lack of education or awareness to the problem. It's basically lack of control, right? Human beings like electricity, like heat, like water, follow the path of least resistance, right? And what is the path of least resistance when it comes to smartphones? Using them, right? It's very easy to open an app, watch it, and that's exactly what's happening with seniors. So a huge concern, very very complicated, but nothing that can be done, right? Nothing can be done. They're saying find a replacement, enforce micro rules, use wisely, and so on and so forth. That's just a bunch of bullshit. Moving on, folks. Not a lot of people today, I see. There's a lot of movement when it comes to paddle ball and pickleball, and it's becoming a whole industry in itself. Paddle ball and pickleball, these two sports are even having leagues now. So this is basically badminton, tennis, squash, some of it put together. The whole economy is it's burgeoning into a whole proper legitimate thing. Looking at the sport, it's very funny, right? It seems very, it's like a toddler playing tennis. And you look at pickleball sports and so on and so forth, very very weird, slow, and so on. But say people say that it's turning into the next golf. What does that mean? Golf is essentially not as much a sport but a networking activity. It's basically an elite gathering exercise, right? It's an expensive sport, very expensive sport, but also a means for people to connect with the the ultra rich socializing play. That is golf in nutshell. Paddle ball and pickleball is becoming or proving to be or looking at being a hip version of golf. What do you feel about that? What do you feel about that? It's definitely happening, so there are no two ways about it. Do you consider the trend towards paddle ball or pickleball, because these are indoor sports, as a defense mechanism of the society against the rising pollution trouble? Do you think that could be the reason why these sports are catching on? Because it's become very difficult to play the real sports like tennis, like football, like the outdoor sports. Do you think that could be an actual reason for the rise of these semi sports, if you can call them that, right? I think that is a possibility. The whole indoor paradigm, you see, badminton has really risen in popularity, and the reason why badminton is rising in popularity is not because there's a lot of money being made in badminton. Yeah, sure, the sport is gaining some popularity international level thanks to Madam PV Sandhu, Madam Sania Nehwal, and so on and so forth, right? Lakshya Sen. But it's not that. It's basically society's defense mechanism against incompatibility to bigger, real, actual sports, right? In Delhi, would it make sense to play football? It doesn't. I used to play football at state level, right? It makes no sense to play football in Delhi, right? So a lot of activity for the elite, or let's say for the upper middle class, has shifted away from those sports, the open ground sports, and towards these indoor activities, and which is an interesting social phenomena, don't you think? Mr. Abhishek Sharma says it could be one of the reasons. Also, as you mentioned, there is a gap of networking stuff for commoners, so startups are using that opportunity to promote and make some money. Correct. There's a lot of isolation as well when it comes to some stratas of the society, and maybe maybe the answer to that is the safe environment pickleball kind of a play. Very, very, you know, maybe I'm not being able to adjust to this reality and not appreciate it. Maybe I need to play the sport to be able to appreciate it. But it just seems pretty weird to me. The whole, it literally looks like a toddler, that plastic bat, right? The racket, and then the slow ball. It's just very weird. But yeah, lower space setup needs. Paddle is positioning itself as a premium recreational sport in upscale clubs. Southern and Western India lead adoption. Bangalore, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, and Goa. Real estate developers adding paddle and pickleball courts as lifestyle differentiators. Major leagues happening. Major cities hope. Most of target users are also corporate people. So it's inclusive of all gender. Oh, yeah, that could be a very interesting perspective. It's not as physical as a proper, tennis kind of a play, right? It's less physical. It's less, say, tenacious in a way, right? So that could be a very interesting perspective. You're right. You're right. So that's what's happening. World Pickleball League by Swiggy. Adani Group partnering with Indian Pickleball League, and so on and so forth. The corporate racket, PepsiCo, RPG, JSW, ITC. It's just happening all over the place, right? Basically, the next golf. What I'd say is golf is slightly different from pickleball because it's cool. It's cool, right? Golfing is cool. Pickleball, because of the whole mechanics of it, right? The dynamics of the sport is not cool. It's not pretty to look at. It's funny. It has a hilarity to it, right? Which sort of makes me feel like it could be a fad. But if it's a real estate investment, it could not be a fad, right? Fads don't make for real estate investments. Real estate investments need to have like a 20-year outlook, right? So let's see what happens to these sports, if you can call them that, right? Paddleball and pickleball. With that, we come to the end of the 181st episode of Thinkers Frequency, folks. Very, very slow day for news, but I hope you had fun. Not a lot of people today. Should we not do the show on weekends? Mr. Abhishek Sharma, Mr. Sumanth Kumar, and everybody else who's here. Should we not do the show on weekends? Because people like to sleep on weekends. I've understood. I like it because it gives you a routine, right? And the routine doesn't break even on the weekends. So, which is great, which is awesome, which helps. But if people are really not available, a lot of people say that we watch your episode after the fact, right? They watch the repeat play, right? Which is okay. But the fun of live is in the live, right? And live participation is okay because I don't speak in a way which is record friendly. It's a very conversational thing. So what do you think, Mr. Sumanth Kumar and Mr. Abhishek Sharma? Should we do? It's not for people. We can do it for us. It's fun. Yeah. That's the right way to look at it. It's definitely fun. It's definitely fun, and we should do it because it's fun, right? That's a good enough reason for us to continue. And also on weekends, what we can do is actually have those panel discussions, right? Unfortunately, I have still not gotten even one pager by anybody, any viewer of Thinkers Frequency, on what they want to discuss. And I'm like, it's been about 20 days, over 20 days that we've been doing this after the patronage, right, of people. Not one entry. So people should come out in the open and say that, hey, I want to discuss this. Let's have this discussion. Have me on, right? And we'll have a good panel discussion on the weekends because weekends are almost always slow day for news, and weekends you can go longer, right? Even if it's a heavy day on news on a particular weekend, we could still have the panel discussion and stretch on, right? So it could be a nice 10-15 minute discussion and it could be amazing. But so if you're listening or if you listen to it after the live, send me messages, folks. Send me messages about what you want to discuss, and I will have you on. With that, we come to the end of Thinker's Frequency, a daily mental workout, a daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in, a daily exercise of making predictions, right? I should thank Mr. Sumanth Kumar, Mr. Abhishek Sharma, and everybody else who joined. I hope you have a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Please take care. Bye-bye. Great. Thanks for your time. Have a great day, everyone, says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Thank you, Mr. Sharma.